So apparently, Abraham Lincoln didn't do anything for African Americans. Hello, welcome to Dangerous Policy, a channel aimed at intelligent people wanting to discuss important issues facing life and society. My name is Crispin, and today I'm going to talk about something that's happened which is absolutely extraordinary, and is even in the current woke zeitgeist hard for me to believe. So in the United States, in San Francisco, a high school has been renamed because the namesake didn't do enough, apparently, for African Americans. Well, that school, of course, was the Abraham Lincoln High School. Now, if there's anyone in the world who's watching who doesn't know who Abraham Lincoln was, he, of course, was President of the United States during the American Civil War. He made the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared slaves free, and then saw the passage of the 13th Amendment of the Constitution after the war was over, which ensured that all people in the United States would be free from bondage and that slavery could never again return to its shores. In short, he was a transformative figure who not only kept the Union together at its time of greatest peril, but also delivered for the American people and the American dream a emancipation of millions of people who had been shipped across the Atlantic as slaves. I mean, that is just, I can't think of any individual who has done more to combat slavery than Abraham Lincoln, even though perhaps as an organization and institution, more credit would be given to the British Navy. Abraham Lincoln wasn't like, he was a pragmatist. I myself don't worship Abraham Lincoln the way a lot of people do. I think he's a great politician, and he certainly got around the rules when it suited him, often for good, noble reasons, but often also for political opportunism. He was an ordinary person who achieved extraordinary good things, and that is, in fact, what we all should aim to be. None of us are perfect. That's probably the greatest of all Christian innovations, was that understanding. And yet, according to the school board overseeing this district, Abraham Lincoln was clearly not as enlightened as they are, with their own enormous contributions, no doubt, to progressing people of color and their rights in the United States. And to quote Mr. Jeremiah Jeffries, who is the committee chair, he said, "Lincoln, like the presidents before him and most after, did not show through policy or rhetoric that black lives ever mattered to them, outside of human capital and as casualties of wealth building." End quote. In short, because Abraham Lincoln wasn't renowned for being part of the Black Lives Matter movement, he didn't deserve to have his name on this high school. There's a few things I want to say about this, beyond the fact that it is self-evidently and patently insane. There is a highly dangerous thought process that leads someone to this kind of conclusion. And that is that, first of all, that you as an individual are the culmination of endless progress that makes you more enlightened than all of your forebears, and that all of the forebears that did come before you should have known better than what they did. And thus, you yourself, if you were in that situation that they were raised in, you would have been this enlightened soul. And there is a certain degree of hubris that goes beyond mere delusion in that sense. First of all, it's not true. Humans don't have a history of endless progress. We take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We go different ways. There's no guarantee that the next century is going to be more enlightened and peaceful than this century. And much of our history is determined by the vicissitudes of the advances of human culture and the crisis of power. We can turn back to the ancient Greeks and go, we'll look at their philosophy, their drama, their cosmology, their understanding of human nature, their literary traditions, their mathematics. And at the same time, we can completely discount them because they believed in slavery. I mean, that's insane. And then, I mean, in Abraham Lincoln's case, it's even worse because the very thing that he is most renowned for is the thing that they are criticizing. It's one thing to say, well, yes, someone was a great mathematician, but they're also a mass murderer, and therefore we don't want to honor them. That would be at least understandable, if not still, a degree of folly in most cases. But to say that the person who is most responsible for achieving emancipation of African Americans in the United States wasn't good enough because they didn't believe in Black Lives Matter the way we conceive of it in 2020 is insane, but also dangerous. It's a dangerous way of believing because it means that you can do that to literally any human being who has ever existed, including yourself. It's a thought process that we should actually not just laugh at, but actively resist. The other thing that it does is it means that we don't learn the lessons of history. If we assume that we are the product of progressive enlightenment, to the point where all of our forebears were Neanderthals by comparison, then we don't need to listen to the lessons of history, do we? We don't need to study history because we don't assume that the people living in that period were very similar to us, with their own understanding of the world and the vicissitudes of life, much like we endure on a daily basis. No, they were something else, some pre-evolutionary creature that has nothing that can help us, and that we instead should be looking back on them with a degree of contempt because we clearly are so much better than they ever were. That is also, just insane. It's the most polite way I can put it. The more accurate way I can put it is that it's dangerous. It means that you can completely underwrite and discount your own culture. You can be completely morally relativistic about everything in the world. And therefore, any act, no matter how atrocious, is permissible provided you believe in your own mind that you're achieving some overarching utilitarian goal. I know that, I might be blowing this up in terms of renaming a school in San Francisco, but that really is the end road, right? Like if you have, if you're willing to say with a straight face that Abraham Lincoln didn't do enough but discounting, the things that have already happened, people tearing down statues of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and renaming things after, that had been named after Dianne Feinstein and all these people, discounting all of that because you say, well, there were slave owners and whatnot. To be actually attacking Abraham Lincoln, who is singularly the most responsible for the African American emancipation, certainly up until Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement, then you are willing to basically say that whatever has happened in our history and whoever you are, if you do not accrue to my understanding of perfection, then you as a human being are completely invalidated. And that's just the greatest innovation of Christianity. Like if you believe that a person can be perfect, then you're a Greek, right? Because that was something the ancient Greeks believed in, that you could actually perfect someone. But if the greatest moral innovation of Christianity was that nobody's perfect, and we should all be humble, and we should all learn from the characters that have come before us, because they're not that dissimilar to ourselves. And if we were in their situation at that time, we would be damn well lucky if we did as well as they did in that situation. And we should derive from them the wisdom that allows us to build on the good things in our culture in the present day, instead of tearing it all down, as we're seeing here. Hopefully, my little rant made sense. If you do have comments on this, please leave them down below. I'll leave a link to what's happened with this school in the description as well. Happy to hear your thoughts on this. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We do talk about this sort of thing a lot, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.